Hey, welcome to another episode of Sober Not Sane, which is indicative of the host, not necessarily the guest. I should mention that every week. Big thanks to Liz from the camera store for letting us use some cameras here. And the camera store knows, though, right? Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Liz.
Because I'm thinking they're going to find out. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe and like us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Everybody knows you. Everybody knows us together,
right?
Too, which is cool. Dave Kelly, my guest tonight. And Dave, you're not an alcoholic, right?
No, I'm willing to learn, but I'm not. Although, you know what? I shouldn't say that. I come from a powerful line of alcoholics. And so my dad, I went to a lot of AA meetings as a kid. So I don't know if that scared me away, but yeah.
You went to the meetings with your dad?
On his anniversaries, he'd take me. So I sent him a note.
For the cake?
For the cake. The cake and the coffee and the smell of cigarettes. I remember Dad he's at 58 years this year? 59?
59 years sober?
Yeah. Or no, it's 55. 55 years sober.
Oh, okay.
January. That's way less. Yeah.
He quit when I was 9. God bless him. Good for him.
Yeah, he quit when I was 3.
That's a little young to be going to the birthday meeting, isn't it?
Well, he waited till I was 5.
Hold it, kid. I got to go up and get my coin. You know what I found is people that know enough about addiction and stuff are willing to laugh at shit no one else will.
Yeah.
And just because the absurdity of parts of our lives, you know, that we look at it and go, well, you have to laugh. Otherwise, you'd be out of tears by now.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, there is a certain amount of like funeral home humor that happens in those sort of scenarios, eh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We would make excellent coroners and funeral home
directors.
Right? Well, I guess
maybe?
embalmers, yeah. I was trying to think, they're not coroners because it's it's sort of the same job. But
how you been? Here we are. I was looking
how long
forward
has it been? Well, we did your goodbye show together.
Yeah, and then we did that, and then we did the 20th anniversary show. There's pictures. I have
with Andy and
Tara
and
McCool and a bunch of them. Yeah,
and Ms. McCool.
Mm-hmm.
I actually worked with on the movie show a bazillion years ago.
Crazy. She
was a child. And shame about her looks, eh?
Oh my gosh, just does her best, with what she has.
Yep.
Some people just can't live up to what
Thank
you
God
and I
she
go.
can afford makeup. And TV, well known for average-looking women.
Yeah,
and you know what's funny? That's what I love about watching TV from England is everybody looks like people.
Yeah,
Yeah. Everybody here. Well, you're not quite movie star enough. I'm reading the news. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, exactly. Although, like, one thing about Tara, a wildly attractive person, but inside even more. Just the kindest.
That's
person.
The hilarious thing.
I know. Yeah.
And you know what? I think we were really lucky. A lot of the women that we worked with through A Channel and all were actually nicer than they were good looking.
Yeah. Suzanne Fox, another great person. Yeah.
Oh, you know what I tell people all the time? She used to take her vacation and go run a combine.
I know.
And I just can't put all that together myself. But
so good. And her boy's really sick, and she's approaching it just like a farm girl. Well, what you got to do, you got to get to the hospital and you got to get your treatment. And obviously it's tearing her up, but she's just like
she goes into protective mom mode and takes care of business.
Yeah, it's just like
I can see her doing that.
Yeah, amazing lady.
Yeah, well, wish them well, of course.
Yeah. Then there's us too. So I don't know where we fit into the mix.
I don't know what. And you got married.
Mm-hmm.
You had one of each.
One of each, boy and a girl. I went through all of you and I hanging out on TV together, doing all these parenting interviews, and never had kids. And then after I got out of TV,
did it help?
I think I would have had way more intelligent questions now than I would have then, but then again, maybe it wouldn't have.
Yeah, but wouldn't you find that it would have been so pointed as to whatever you were going through with your kids at the time?
Yeah.
All right, that's great. I know, you invented this thing, but what if a baby boy
Exactly. Yeah, that would have been me.
What
Can
if
we
he
just-
pees on his little sister? What?
I got a video. I just want you to take a quick look at this. You tell me.
What we do is we rub his nose in it, and it seems to work.
We just use newspaper and whack him. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, too, is that at the time you didn't have kids and you did a gazillion,
Mm-hmm.
you know, everybody at work had new babies.
Oh, there's so many.
And they just, they worked hard. I can't believe they found the time.
Yeah. Like Tara would come on the show, or Suzanne, and say the kid was up all night. And I'd think, yeah, whatever. In my head, because I didn't have kids. I thought, how hard is that? Until my kids are up all night. I'm like,
See, and I would think, so was I. Funny that. I actually, you know what? When Jessie was little, I didn't mind getting up with her.
Yeah.
My favorite thing on the planet was taking an afternoon nap with her lying on my chest sleeping.
That would have been amazing, eh?
Yeah, it's just a closeness you'll never get. And fortunately, because of the show we were on, I believe I was done at 9:01. And goodbye. I mean, sometimes I would sign off from my car on the way out of the parking lot. But then I got to go home and hang out with Jess and take care of her.
Yeah, I think I do look at when I was with the kids were young, I for sure thought this would have been a perfect breakfast television time because you get home in the middle of the day and you'd hang out with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well. So I missed the boat.
And now, they're smoking. 9 and 11.
They're all.
Oh, no, that's my family.
That's yours.
That's my family. What do you know what everybody asks me?
Yeah.
And this is my favorite way to answer it. People say, well, what's Dave up to? And I say, well, how the hell would I know? And what kind of amazes me too, and I think anyway that you always tend to care about the people that you worked with, and ultimately they're coworkers, and it's a very transient business, television, and people move station to station and job to job, and you don't always work with people for a long time. But when people are laid off, I have a point to get to. When everybody was laid off from the morning show, I had people coming to me and asking me, well, are they okay? Are they? Yeah. I said, the only one I really talk to is Andy.
Right.
And Andy will be fine. He always will be. He's doing great, of course, now on QR. And people would say, but they're your friends. Yeah. And I'd say, no, they were coworkers. Yeah. And I said, some of them you care about more than others. It's just the way it is. And I'm sure there are people out there that I worked with that are watching this going, I always hated that a-hole. That guy, fair enough. Mm-hmm. But do people ask you about? All the time. Yeah? Yeah. And what's funny is when they ask me how Gord Gillies is, and I'm like, well, we weren't even on the same channel, but, but I'll have But oddly enough, you probably know a bit about
I do. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. And it's a smaller world in a way. And there was, especially when we started, I don't think it's as, well, there's no shows anymore, but I don't think at the time in the late 90s and early 2000s, everyone had events and all the media was invited, whether it was skiing or hotel openings or restaurant openings. So we would see everybody all the time at these events. Yeah. So yeah, you certainly got to know them.
At the speed skating rink.
Oh my God. Remember that?
I do. I remember you can skate and I can't.
Oh, everything we tried.
And I just Dutch boyed it. I just did the really slow. You were very intense on making a good time. And I was just kind of like, I'll just look funny doing it and let it go. But I'm not Canadian, so.
I remember the first ever event I hosted was in, it was in one of the downtown oil buildings, and it was for the release of a cookbook that this company had put out for mental health. And they said, well, just stand in the lobby. And I was like, well, I'd never done it. I remember walking somewhere with you and you were like, okay, where's the microphone? I'm thinking, oh, good question. Jebb knows what questions to ask.
Where's the microphone? That's a good one.
Everyone who's a decent stand-up always goes, where's the microphone? What's the PA? And that's all because you're smart. At the time, I didn't know. And I remember going, I guess I should ask about a microphone. I don't even know how to do any of this.
But once that's done, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Like whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
Once I used to call it the beast. Once the beast gets going, you just got to go with whatever is going on.
Yeah.
Because you can't control it.
No. But I remember meeting you, and you've heard me babble about this enough, but I didn't realize that comedians or someone like you had like worked on jokes. I just thought they were just funny people. I just didn't think, right? So when you would say, well, I'm working on this thing, and then I'd hear you get it better and develop it, I had no sense that was a craft that you worked on. I just thought, I don't know, they were the funny guys at school.
Yeah, but you're an actor.
Yeah. So I'm looking for someone to give me lines.
No, I know. Yeah, but you know what it's like to prepare for a part.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. Although I have people tell me, there's no difference between watching your stand-up and talking to you, which was always my goal. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we talked about it at some point. And,
But I was always so, like, I remember we had a meeting at A Channel back in the day, and one of the bosses said there was like a bunch of industry people. I don't even remember, but it was in our big breakfast area.
We had the biggest room.
Yeah, exactly. And they said, hey, Jebb, can you just go just do like 3 minutes of something? And you're like, all right. And you walked up to a mic and then just started being really funny. And I was like, wow, I have no idea how he does that. But I didn't. I just didn't realize.
Yeah, but you got all that junk in your head. It's got to go somewhere.
That was great.
Otherwise, you'll be doing a show in a very quiet room. You got to get it out, man.
Yeah, I just remember being blown away by the skill. Like, oh, that's a skill. I get it.
But and you've written plays too,
Mm-hmm.
so.
But the hardest.
It's the same thing. They're just funny plays.
They are. But funny is, like, I do think I can write a play, and if no one laughs, it doesn't matter. But like the only result that works in your business is they have to laugh. Like, it's not like they can say, well, it wasn't funny, but we had a nice time. It's like, no. You have to laugh. Like, there's no other answer that works.
We enjoyed the way he acted up there.
I think it'll work, right?
I think he's got a niche. Yeah, and whereas I am not good at doing someone else's words, and still people every once in a while will call me and ask me to read for something, and I'll go, do you want me to do it a certain way, or are you looking to hire me?
Right. Yeah.
Because I've been in arguments with people where they'll go, oh, that was really good, but could you be a little more upbeat? No, this is how I am.
This is me,
and I stay true to my voice. But see, for me to look at an actor and go, well, how do you become that guy? And there's certain actors that I'll watch. They can be in the most horrific 2.5-hour film.
Yeah. But
they're in it, and they're worth watching every minute they're up there.
Yeah. I find Jonah Hill that way. It doesn't matter what he's in. I want to see him. Whenever he walks on scene, I'm like, it's going to be good, because he is just great.
Scene stealer.
Yeah. So good. So good.
Cruising and
then boom. Yeah, and I remember just being aware, like, since meeting you, and you're the first stand-up I knew, like, more than, hi, how are you? And since meeting you, I just been way more interested in that whole genre and what you do for a living, and realizing that whole find your voice is a piece of it, right? And I remember being so jealous on the show because you could instantly have an opinion about the mayor or whatever, like you would just have thoughts, right?
Yes.
And I was like, how does he just have that? And it would be funny and smart. Whereas I'd be like, well, where's my next interview? I'll have them talk about it. But you actually could just do that I never could do.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. I just am always amazed at that.
And see, for me, you could actually read a book and, who was it? I was filling in for you in the studio, and there were like 7 books. And I mean, I did the same as in high school. I just.
You did that with Margaret Atwood.
I told her I didn't read the book.
Yeah. You told her, and this is like the most famous Canadian author ever. And you're like, I didn't read the book. And she was charmed. You still managed to charm her.
Well, I said there's 7 books this week. I'm not reading 7 books. I sounded like a junior high.
The book report's too long.
She's an intense person.
Yeah. I remember that one because I was like, oh, Jebb gets to, like, I've never met her.
See, and you probably would have been really jacked to meet her.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in my head, I just kept looking at her thinking, who the fuck are you and what's with the hair? You know?
Yeah.
And she really was. She was delightful. She was very, very kind in the interview to me.
Yeah.
And my thing was always just be really honest.
Yeah.
Like, don't try to lie to, like, she's going to know.
Yeah.
And what did I said to her was, there was only one character in the book. And I said, well, if I was going to be anybody in your book, it would have been this guy. And she goes, well, yeah, he's the only character. I said, yeah, well, I didn't really read the book. But there was more than one name in the title.
So, come on. When you looked at the cover.
One would assume, if you don't crack the book open and go by just whatever they named it, probably the editors. But
look at that. That was us. So 30-ish, almost 25 years ago, you're touring the world doing stand-up. I'm wandering the world going, I don't know, I guess TV, I guess theater. And here we are now.
Well, you had done TV in Edmonton too, right? And you were a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And were you a substitute teacher?
No, I taught junior high language arts for 8 years.
Then you should be the fucking prime minister. At least you had a real... You know, I was actually going to write a post today. And because he's going to come out, and today was the day. This won't air immediately, but that he was, the truckers are on Parliament Hill looking for him to come out and chat, which no way in hell he's going to.
Yeah.
And now he went, oh, I tested positive. I have to go away. Like, he's figured out every great excuse with COVID. But I was going to post this thing that just said, you used to teach drama. Why don't you act like a prime minister? Just act like one. You don't have to really be one.
Just pretend.
I'd be petrified if I thought he was actually running the country. But I think there's a group of people looking after things.
That's where, I would be... my problem was, and is to this day, is whatever the last politician I heard, I'd always go, yeah, well, they kind of make sense. So they'd come on the show and I would be like, they're too far one way or the other. And I go, there's no way. But then they'd be like, well, and I'd be like, oh, they kind of make sense. It didn't matter who. And I was like, why isn't Jebb here? He could say, that's dumb.
But here's do you remember, this was one of my favorite things, that terrible way to torture people. It was a mayoral run and Brancagnier was in, and I made the candidates come and play Twister. And they did it.
Oh, my God.
I invited them and they showed up.
Yeah, that's right.
And then there was one really crazy guy who's going to remain nameless. And during one of the commercial breaks, he says something like, after 9/11, there were no Jews in the Twin Towers. And I was like, I look at the cameraman, tell me you got that on tape. Tell me you have that. Like, I thought, you're out of your mind. Anyone can run to be mayor.
It's crazy.
And Brancagnier won that, but he was very thin and limber.
Bronco was.
Yeah, and the rest of them were not.
Could you imagine, though, the shit we asked people to do? I remember Russ Broom was on the show during the Stampede. So it's this famous guitar player, wrote a bunch of stuff with Jan Arden, and one of those guys that I knew of as this iconic Canadian guitar player during Stampede.
Well, and producer, director, arrangements
And he came on, and we were doing, it was during Stampede, and we were doing the Super Dogs. And the Super Dogs were doing some routine where they're running around. And then the guy in charge of the Super Dog says, and then they'll come through the front door, and they'll jump over somebody who's lying on their back, and then that'll be the end of the thing. So he looks around and goes, and so we need someone to lie on the floor. And he looks at Russ Broom. And he says, why don't you lie on the floor? And I'm like, no, it's okay, don't worry. And Russ goes, no, sure, I'll do it. So I'm like...
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
I'm shitting myself going, here is, it'd be like saying, oh, the Led Zepp's here, but they're going to lay down so everyone can jump over them with their dogs. And I was just so embarrassed about it,
Yeah, but you know what he said? We lived in the same building for a little while. And he's the nicest man. And I distinctly remember this, one of those where you just go, walking away, even as messed up as I was, and I was not in good shape.
Yeah.
And I'm walking across, and he's got his kids in the car with him, and he stops to talk to me. And all I thought was, please go away. And I just thought that was a horribly embarrassing moment, but for the same reason, because he's not just really, really ultra talented. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah. Now would you like that? Dogs jumping over him, and they did, and he just lay there.
But he did, you know, he seems to be up for anything.
Oh,
kind
he
of
was.
guy.
Yeah, and I've apologized a few times since then, and he laughs every time. He goes, "I don't care. It was funny. What else was I doing at 7:00 in the morning?" So
yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was horrifying, but we did it. So.
And I think he, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he worked on the new Jan Arden.
He did. He's doing all the music for it. All the music you hear is his, and him and Jan, their new album is just out, and he did a bunch of writing on it and producing on it. So yeah, I was fun.
Well, that was the Magic team, right, to begin with.
And they split up, and then on Dave Kelly Live, the show that we can chat about if it doesn't matter, but he led the house band, and I brought Jan on, and they got. I wouldn't say they got back together because of the show, but that was one of the first times they were working together again, which was sweet.
Wow.
Yeah.
She cracks me up.
Unbelievable.
I was at a hockey game, and I'm going to start with, in my defense, she had gotten really thin, like really. You remember? With the blonde hair.
Yeah.
And I'm in line for a cocktail, and she comes up and starts talking to me, and we'd met her off and on, you know, with the show and everything. And she stops when it dawns on her, I don't know who she is.
Right.
And she goes, Jebb, it's Jan. I go, oh yeah, you know, like you say, as if you really knew who it was. And she goes, fucking Jan Arden, you idiot. And I'm trying to explain, but oh look, you've lost all this weight. You look great. The new hair, and I'm an a-hole.
And I'm the moron here.
Oh yeah, that would have been one of my numerous embarrassing moments. But she's just she's so talented. It was really funny because in Montreal one year she hosted the Nasty Show,
right?
And there were stand-ups that were literally going, well, you know, what the fuck is that? You know, bring this musician on. It should be one of the really dirty comics.
Yeah.
I said, oh no, you're going to want to see this.
How did she do?
Oh, phenomenal.
Right. Yeah.
And filthy.
Yeah.
Got right into it.
Yeah.
And just no holes barred and had a great time.
She practices a lot. She's like 300 shows a year when COVID's not around. So she has a lot of practice, but she is funny. She is just
she is.
I've heard her sing Insensitive, really slowly, finish it, big applause. Then she goes, well, we're going to slow things down a little bit. just a little, just think, come on.
Sly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. So good.
Well, there's a lot of talent that's come out of Calgary.
Yeah, there sure is.
And you know what amazes me? And I see quite a few guys that, Spider and his wife come by all the time. And you just go, these are stunning musician, actor. She's a stage director. He can do anything with music. And there's a lot of those people that haven't gone on to be really huge, but are just so unbelievably talented.
Do you think that's you've been around? Is there anything uniquely Albertan or Calgarian about that, do you think?
I would say there's more in the country vein of music because it's more popular style of music in Alberta than it might be in other provinces. But I find the type of music, I talked to somebody about this the other day. If you can sing anything. Like if you can really sing, they can. I mean, look at what's his name from Hootie and the Blowfish.
Right.
He was a country singer.
Yeah. Or Taylor Swift or any of them, right?
They can sing anything. But I think there's a level. I don't want to insult anyone, but a level of AAA ball that are so close to being in the major leagues, and they just don't get that break.
Like, would you say in Alberta, if you saw somebody who was, I don't know, say 24, 25, who had some skill, would you say work on it here, or would you say get the hell out and work on it somewhere else?
I don't even know. Like musically, I don't know.
But
I don't
even like
know.
entertaining or comedy or whatever.
For comedy, the only there's a lot of different versions of if you're doing comedy. When you start out, you're like a plane, and you only have so many bombs in the hatch, and you got to keep flying missions till all the bombs are gone, and then you've figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
And so just by virtue of there are more clubs in Toronto or Los Angeles or San Francisco to go to, you get more stage time.
Right. That makes it simpler. Yeah.
And and I mean, historically, Canadians have done great in Los Angeles.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think of that. I mean, there's no TV jobs in Calgary anymore. Like there was
very few.
Not like there were anyway, right? So
well, no, we had 175 people
at
A Channel when we went on the air.
Yeah. No,
and the famous night of me pushing the poor little security guard out of my way.
Yeah.
Knocking him over and like, I got to be on stage.
Yeah, you move.
Where's your pass? I don't need one.
You listen for the guy talking. That's going to be me. So
yeah, and like I'm hearing my intro.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you hosted that night?
No, I didn't. I stood beside Judy that night. You mean in the tent outside on the street? Yeah, no, so this was for those of you
Judy Gabriel or my wife?
Your wife. So we were, because you got hired shortly before.
Before you?
Before the show. Like
you were very shortly before the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were on air on a Monday. This was the big launch of the station was a Saturday night. And so they'd launched Edmonton on Friday, came to Calgary, and there was a huge tent. They blocked off Fifth Street.
Yeah.
And there's a huge tent. And then they were like, and here he is, Jebb Fink. And I was standing beside Judy, and you walked up. And we were in the back at a cocktail table, and I'd never seen you do anything. I didn't know you. And then you just started doing, that was the first time I was like, holy, what is this guy? And then I said to Judy, who's this guy? And she's like, well, that's my husband, and he's Jebb. And I was like, I know that. And then, yeah, that was the first time.
Well, the hilarious thing is I've heard from other people, well, every job in TV you get, so why should we even try? From the comedians. And I would say to them, did you apply?
Yeah.
And most of them didn't even apply.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember when I got the job, I drove to Edmonton and I put a suit on and did an interview there. And what's his name? He came down and
Mark.
Nope. Kennedy was running here and it was Duncan. Chris Duncan.
Yeah.
Chris Duncan offers me the job. I said, I don't want to come to Edmonton to work. Can you get me the job in Calgary?
Huh.
Yeah.
Really?
And he called Mark. He said, I got your guy.
Ah.
And Mark wouldn't interview me because I was local. We want someone new. And I believe my remark to him was, well, you're an idiot. Turns out he was.
Interesting. Yes, he was. Speaking of addicts, there he was.
God bless him.
God bless.
Hope he's doing well.
Yep.
I don't, it's really funny because I don't know how you feel. Like there's people in your life that you're maybe not really big on.
Yeah.
But I can't actually point at any job I was up for that someone else got that I was better than them.
Right.
Like I can look at it and go, oh, I see why they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and for me, it was such a, like every job, kind of like you, every job that I've gotten in the last 30 years have been sideways. Like it wasn't like I went to school to learn anything that I ended up doing. I went to school to be a teacher.
There we go. Let's hinge on that. You were qualified, right?
Yeah, I was qualified there. Everything else was like, well, I'll give that a shot. And I'll see what happens here. And that sounds fun. Let's try that. So tap dancing, how the heck I ended up tap dancing? I did
harmonica, guitar.
Yeah. I mean, there are ways to make a living, and I'm still going, well, what about this? Let's see if I can make this work. So,
and the big question for everybody is, what are you doing now? Because I actually don't know.
Well, I did, there's kind of two things I'm doing more than any. One is, I do some live I write plays and do this Dave Kelly live show, which is a live theatrical show that we were doing forever until COVID, and now with audiences that's tricky. We do some online stuff.
Is that back on though?
We almost did a Christmas show. We had to cancel. We almost did a Valentine's show. Had to cancel. So it's just people aren't we can't sell tickets yet because nobody wants to buy anything until they know, and it's just too much. So we haven't been able to do it.
It's a big risk.
And then the sort of the steady gigs is I host for corporate around the world, but mostly North America. People bring me in to say, can you run our conference, or can you run our evening, or can you run this? So it is a little bit slicker and more
little hosting.
Yeah. So that's sort of like you going on the road doing stand-up. That's the same thing I do, except it's corporate gigs.
I don't do that right
or
now.
Here or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find there's not that many events that are really interested in spending money.
Yeah. Well, and the only, like, what I've found, it's not even like events that you can hire anybody to host your awards night, and it'll be what it'll be. But what I found has really been is if someone's running, so if a medical company or an oil company or an association is running a 3-day conference and they don't have any way to make it, they say, well, get the head of HR. They're fun. They can be the, hi, how are you? And then because of BT, and I can say, I can interview anybody on anything. I can do your panels. I can do Q&A from the audience, and we can make that whole thing fun and funny and entertaining. Then they're like, oh, okay. So for conferences, that's sort of where I can
almost
fit.
More a moderator.
Yeah.
And then for, I don't know if this is still going on, you did some stuff with Ellen DeGeneres.
I did. Yeah.
You remember her?
I've heard of her. Yes. That whole experience happened because of Dave Kelly Live, because I was doing this live show. It was like a Tonight Show, but in a theater. And the producers of Ellen's Calgary show, they were the ones that brought in everybody, Schwarzenegger. They brought in all these people, right? So those guys, they came and saw a Dave Kelly Live, and they were like, well, that's great. And then they've been working on trying to get Ellen to come to Calgary. And finally she said, look, I'll come, but I'm not doing a speech. Everyone else, when Oprah came, Oprah did a speech, and then they had a bit of Q&A. Or when Clinton came, he did a speech, and they had a little bit of Q&A. She said, I don't want to learn.
Then he did a waitress.
And then he did a couple. So for me, or for Ellen said, I'm not coming. You got to pay me a truckload of money, and I'm just showing up. I'm not giving a speech. I'm going to sit down, and you do whatever you want. So then they needed a host for an hour of just her. So she's not doing a speech. And then, so they did this Canadian search, but because they had just seen this show, which was live and local and in front of a bunch of people, they thought maybe that would work. So
good fit.
Yeah, they put that tape in with a bunch of TV Canadian people.
But see, you're also, when you're sitting there with Ellen, even if you couldn't speak for the day, she would have just done something.
Right.
And that's the live comedy training.
Yeah.
So that must have been great to work with, too. She'd be up for anything.
Totally.
I can't imagine her giving you...
She wouldn't have been that, well, I mean, especially because she's getting paid to be there. But I would say her people, like any of that, their people are worse than the person.
Yeah.
So her people, like, what are you going to talk about? How's it going to work? What's this going to be? And then, but her people were pretty great. Obama's people, not so great, but her people were tremendous. And they said, you have her for an hour. I wouldn't talk about, like they said, you know what, you're not going to get a lot. They said the one thing that I thought was interesting, they didn't want me to talk about Eddie Murphy. And I'm like, why is that? And it wasn't until I kind of finished the tour that I got a sense of it and this would have been your era. I realized that when she first hit, that was when Eddie Murphy was big, Andrew Dice Clay was big, all of the hard, and so
direct opposite.
Yeah, and so here she is. She at the time she's closeted. She doesn't swear, like she's all clean, and she's with all these really blue, macho, male, homophobic comedians. So when I said it must have been awesome working with, and they were like, yeah, I wouldn't ask her that stuff because I don't think she'll have a lot of fond memories of that time, and she didn't. She just did not find that fun. Which I get.
Well, I mean, but that's the way it is when you're on the road too.
Yeah.
is sometimes you get, for lack of a better word, saddled
Yeah.
with someone that you don't particularly
Get along with.
or want to work with.
Yeah.
And it always amazed me, for comedians, a lot of them were looking to become buddies.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like, we're just working together, man.
Do a job.
Get up there, do your 30 minutes. You do 31.
Yeah.
I'm going to be up your ass after the show.
Yeah.
And
yeah. But other than that, yeah, I mean, you just throw a ball and she'd knock it out of the park. So it was a funny, the trick with her was,
and it's her audience.
Yeah.
Definitely. They were dying to see her.
They're crazy trained. And it was like, it was more about keeping them under control, because they would just lose their minds so quickly and just want to scream the whole time. So you had to be careful. But yeah, it was fun. And that show went well. And then she said, why don't we tour? So then we did the whole country.
How many shows?
We did 2 Toronto, 1 Montreal, 1 Vancouver, 1 Calgary. And then we went and did Super Bowl weekend in Miami.
Wow.
So it was fun. Yeah. It was.
Did you get to go to the Super Bowl?
No, I did not. Although I didn't like.
See, I don't care about football.
I didn't either. So I was so excited to just try and it was a test to see would it work with them. Like, she was nervous and her people thought, is the Canadian guy going to work in the States? Is it going to work in Miami and all of that? So
yeah, but really your job isn't to be from Canada there.
No. And they were always nervous. Yeah. But it was fun. Yeah. It was super stressful, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and funny too, because I would think she would not have much interest in working with a comedian opening for her, or
no, yeah.
I mean, because face it, we're loose cannons. You can find there are a lot of guys that work really clean. Like she could find what she needed.
Yeah,
but I don't think that it would be necessarily her thing, and it's not. She's not really thought of as a comedian anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it was fun for me to know that they weren't looking to me to be funny. I was there to be the interviewer. My job was to make her look good and set her up well and end on time and do all the things that a host does. And that's right up my alley. So it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. And then COVID hit and here we are.
You going to do more now that she's retired?
I don't know. She talked it like they all talked like they wanted to, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, it's really funny. I don't know what I'm going to ask you what you thought. I thought that a lot more would change in people throughout COVID. And I had this bizarre, and I mean, you've known me forever, and you know I am the way I look at a glass is half full, half empty, and I think, holy shit, what's in that glass? And I always look for the danger. And I actually thought, I think people are going to get back to what's really important in life, and enough with the greed and all of this shit. And, I need to have a better car than you. And I thought people would think I should become a nicer person, because I was thinking that way. I thought, okay, now we got a chance to be nicer to each other. And it didn't happen. Now we got a chance to drive our trucks to the Parliament Hill and sit there as if it's going to do something.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's been I don't know. Yeah, it's like, and I found it hard. I don't know how you found it. I found it hard for me. Leaving TV was hard because it was my identity in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then COVID sort of took what was left of that identity and said, we're just going to take that there. We'll just clear that right out.
That last little bit of heart you had.
So it's been, I found it like there's definitely been, I think the first 8 months or 10 months of COVID were shitty because I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in my basement all day Zooming. I'm like, what am I? Who am I? What is this? So I found it hard for sure. And I still do. I still don't, I'm not like out of the woods.
Settled.
Yeah. I don't find it very settling at all.
I just quit doing stand-up, but I had been moving somewhat in that direction on my, hey, maybe we should be sober.
Right.
And part of I haven't been on the road and I haven't been out doing events is I for a long time, didn't trust myself.
Right.
And now it doesn't bother me a bit because every corporate event you go to, they're drinking.
Yeah.
And, but it's their one night.
Yeah.
And, so I'm doing the club. I just did the club last weekend. That'll cover for when this actually airs. But I found I really enjoy it again.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have something.
Well, when I've done a few, like I've done a few gigs recently, and yeah, to get up in front of an audience and they respond and they laugh and they're listening, it's like that is so. There's nothing.
That's the ticket.
Oh, yep.
Everybody look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, do you like me yet? How about you? Can you like me? I want everyone liking me. Yeah, that's my life. Yeah.
There's a episode of Friends, and it was Chandler, and he couldn't stand. It was all about he couldn't stand the confrontation. There was a lot of infighting amongst the friends, and he kept trying to be funny to distract them. And he comes out and he's got a weird hat on. He's smoking it. Everybody look at me and smoking and drinking. Look at me. And I think I actually turned to Judy and said, that's exactly what's going through my head on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
yeah,
it's so bizarre. It's a bizarre thing to do to entertain, no matter what genre of entertainment you do.
Yeah.
And but I always said bands got it over on the comedians because you can always pretend you're at a rehearsal
yeah.
if there's nobody there. But
Yeah.
you know, if you're playing to a room of 10 people, I mean, I think 5 is the smallest audience I've done. I did a full-blown show one time in Palm Springs, and there were the 12 board members of an oil company and their wives. And I can't remember, they wanted to be cheered up because, you know, business wasn't that good. And I get to the airport and there's 5 corporate jets sitting on the tarmac.
Oh
I'm like, yeah, things are going shitty, huh, guys? It's just
tough.
You know, you had to split a jet with one of the other couples.
I found that's my toughest audience always is a bunch of guys, especially a bunch of wannabe CEOs or CEO types, because they're just cards are tight to the chest, so the chance of them just letting go are zero. I found them.
I didn't. This guy got himself fired at a gig I was doing, and remember when I don't know if you ever did anything in them. In the ski jumps, they actually had rooms
really
up there, and you could rent them out for your corporate party. It was quite, and they were during the Olympics. I guess corporations would buy them out to watch the ski jumping, and the guys would be going right over your head and then past you, and you could see them all the way down.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really cool setup. Well, this guy wouldn't shut up. He just kept at me and kept at me. And I looked at the CEO. I said, keep your check. I'm going to tell this fucker what I think about him. And the guy goes, I got it. And he walks over and said, gather your things. You're fired.
Wow.
And the rest of the room, the rest of the show, we're just petrified. You don't want to say the wrong thing. But yeah, it's hard because you're being paid, right?
Yeah.
When you're there to be nice.
Yeah. They're not hiring you to stir a pot.
Yeah.
How is your life now? Speaking of sober, not sane, how are you feeling? How are things in your world? Is your brain?
How's my brain?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know how you turn this into your show and you're interviewing me.
Well,
but
I just love that we're here.
I'm going to go with content. I'm not happy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't even know if I would know what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent the majority of my life fucked up in some way on something. And, I mean, business is tough.
Yeah.
You know, the food business, a lot of places aren't open anymore. A lot of them have gone out of business. Prices are going up rapidly right now.
Yeah.
And I got to figure out a way to tell people. And I decided I'm going to make a list of the items that I use to make my food and the amount that they've gone up.
Right.
And just say, unfortunately, I'm the one standing in front of you when you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, So that part's not fun.
Yeah.
And honestly, no, people have not become nicer
Yeah.
during COVID, and just the what would you think the answer is to, like, we're so divided, and a Trump actually managed to fuck up two countries.
Yeah.
I mean, there were still people going on about, well, Trump won the election. Well, first off, you're a Canadian, so shut up.
Yeah.
And number two, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
You know,
I know. I don't like. It feels to me that kindness still matters, being good still matters, but it's just not interesting. So somebody being kind or somebody being good is not as interesting as somebody standing up and saying, you know what the vaccine is? It's little radio transmitters that go back to China so they can spy on you. I mean, it's so ludicrous, but it's way more interesting than saying, hey, let's just take care of each other. And that's part of the challenge, don't you think?
yeah. And I think politically, what I would have liked to have seen is, and I did, by the way, Joe CC won't accept any messages from me anymore. But I said, I just said, why don't you guys try to get together and do something for the good of the people instead of worrying about the next election? And that's all they do, politicians.
Yeah.
They really, and Obama actually said it really well in his State of the Union address. And he said, as soon as all of you figure out your job is to come here and work for the people of America, not to figure out how to get elected again. And that's the downfall of politicians. All they want is their job again.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, they're probably going to vote Kenny out and put the NDP back in.
Yeah.
And I've said it's exactly like, I was married to Michelle and that didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I divorced her, and then I married Judy and I fucked that up.
Yeah.
And so we divorced. So now I'm not going to go back and remarry Michelle thinking it'll be way better.
Give it a shot. I'd watch that TV show. If you did that, Jebb, I'd watch that show.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you some stuff off camera that just, there's no way I can let my children and grandchildren
see that.
I mean, I speak to them a lot and very directly about everything, but oddly enough, Judy and I still get along well, and Michelle's still a little angry.
Still. Well, and that's, I don't want to keep talking about when I first met Jebb. However, when I first met Jebb, another thing that I was aware of, maybe because most of the people there didn't have kids, right? They're all young. Tara didn't have kids yet. None of them had kids yet.
Yeah.
But you had Jess, and you clearly loved her. And I remember seeing that, and she was doing figure skating. Is that possible? When she was really young, she took figure skating? Or gymnastics, something?
She might have done some gymnastics.
Something. I remember, like, she was just a little kid, and she was bouncing around practicing whatever, some sort of jump and whatever.
We probably did a live from there.
And whatever it was. But no, you were at the studio, and she came by, and you just clearly were so happy to see her. And I remember being really struck with that. First of all, there's not a lot of dads with kids there, and that you were like, I thought, I hope someday if I have kids, I'm that happy to see. Like, you just were thrilled that she walked in. I was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had dinner last night for my birthday at her house.
Nice.
And I just still the same.
Yeah. It's amazing.
No, and you know what? The guy that she's engaged to, good guy, treats her well.
Oh, good.
Still, there is no one good enough for her.
Oh, you're right.
But you know.
Oh, it's good. I always, it's an impressive. You're an impressive dad. So,
yeah, I did a lot of fucking up too, but I think they forgave me.
Who cares? Well, and I was thinking. You asked me once to substitute for you. So a lot of my career I owe to Jebb saying, Dave, I can't make this gig. Can you go do it? And so one of them was for a retirement party, and it was to a guy on 7th.
Those are the best.
Oh my gosh! On 17th Ave, there was this Italian-y restaurant that was just a house, like it was the house on 17th. But you couldn't make it. So you said, hey, can you do this retirement party for me? It's really easy. You just got to introduce. There's a couple of speakers. it's like a wedding, basically. There'd be a dinner, and then you get up and you say, we're honoring Freddie Fredersen, and let's hear from Frank, who worked with him, and Susan, who worked with him, and then let him speak at the end. So great. So I did. So I went in, and I remember sort of doing the thing where you go around and meet everyone, and I find the one person I'm introduced, and I'm saying, okay, how long do you know this guy for? And he said, I've started working with him 3 years ago. And then I'm like, okay, great. And then I said, this woman, she was going to speak. How long have you known the retired guy? She said, I joined the company this year. And then it was him. And I remember watching it and going, this guy's retirement party, and the only people willing to talk have known him for 3 years and for 6 months. That's an asshole boss right there. That's what that is. And it was his company. And I remember thinking, wow, if you're a jerk your whole life, you're going to have the guy talking who's known you for 3 years, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I don't want to be that way, which makes me...
He's eating the bullet for the rest of the crowd,
I know.
Hoping it'll get him moved up.
So I'm here thinking, I'm glad that we've known each other 25 years, and it's not like we're here for saying, I've known you for all of 6 months, Jebb. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, that's I don't want to be that guy that's old and no one, that you can't.
Well, I think, the one thing I think that we did well, and I explained to somebody, I said, we act in our work environment more like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you got to understand that also, man, at times we fought like brothers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And mostly it was because we were both right. and not willing to give in, and I tried to explain to somebody at one point, who was I was talking to one of our bosses, and he said, I think we're going to send you two to marriage counseling. And I just said, go fuck yourself. And he said, yeah, but you guys are fighting about this and that. And I go, yeah, you know why? Because it matters.
Yeah.
It matters to us.
Yeah.
And I said, at the end of the day, when we're doing our job and we're on TV, we really respect what the other one does, mm-hmm. and that's all that fucking matters at that minute. Mm-hmm. And I thought one time, this is like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Only turns out Dean Martin didn't really respect Jerry Lewis very much. But
I agree.
Yeah, and that was the thing. No matter what we disagreed about, there was always that mutual respect and love that made it okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay to disagree.
And we did.
Lots.
Yeah. When you didn't get rattled, I would, because I remember reading about Gretzky talking about, those of you hockey fans out there, this is a quick corner we'll turn. Wayne Gretzky was talking about everyone he played with, and he talked about Paul Coffey and he said, and I'm not comparing either of us to our incredible hockey skills because I realize you're a far better hockey player than I am, but
can't skate.
Yeah. So, but Gretzky said the thing about Paul Coffey is he never worried about how Gretzky said, I never had to worry about how I was acting because Coffey always accepted it. So if I didn't want to go talk to people that day, or if I was stuck on myself that day or whatever, Coffey was the guy who just always accepted him as he was. And I always thought that's how I felt. Like I could be a dick one day. I could do all kinds of stupid shit, but I never worried about Jebb was just going to be Jebb and he was going to tell me to fuck off or not, but it was never going to affect our relationship, which I always thought. And when I saw that about Coffey, I thought that's kind of how it is with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does. And when people say, I can't believe you guys don't hang out. Yeah. I'm like, well, he's got young kids and I have a great grandchild. I'm not that much older, but I am older, and we're busy.
Yeah.
And I don't think people comprehend how busy you can get with your life.
It is crazy. And I found with young kids especially, my whole world has become about the neighborhood because I need you just like who plays. I tend to hang out with people our kids play together because it's just handier. It's like I like coming here. I'm like, all right, so then I'm going to go and I'll be back and you deal with this. And it's just this thing. It's different, which seems
your focus is and work becomes work, and then everything else is more important.
Yeah,
work 100%. Is what you do so you can be where you want to be. And I get more information about you and what you're doing from Kelsey at the box office at the lap shop. Because your kids go to school together, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
And, I can walk into the club. Saw Dave last week. It's like the Dave report.
Yeah.
And she's cute as a button and nice as can be.
Yeah.
And, it's really funny because
I'm going to eat this thing right now. This is, just so you know, Jebb Fink's birthday, 28 years old. We're very proud of him. Happy birthday, Jebb.
Thank you very much.
I just decided I was hungry. Okay, so I know it's your show, but all right, look at your interview or your life. What have you learned? What do you know?
What do I know? You know what's really funny?
No.
Is I don't know if you do remember that was your So Dave's last show, and I was like, you just shoved me in some panel.
Well, see, because what I did,
You shoved me with the panel. You didn't want to talk to me alone.
everyone was
You
a
were
panel.
afraid I was going to tell him about our
Our sex life.
unrequited love.
Well, let me explain this. So,
I only remember when it was Julie Van Rosendahl.
and I think Brian Keating.
Oh, from the zoo.
Yeah,
Yeah, the penguin dude.
the penguin dude. So I invited
You took him on a trip to see penguins. You
I
never
sat
took
on
me
an
anywhere.
island with 700,000 penguins and him. So there. Happy birthday, Jebb. But
Thank you.
yes, what I did was I decided on my final show I was going to get all these guests come on, and I was only going to ask each of them one question. That's what have you learned? And it was New Year's Eve,
Is that what you asked the other guests?
yeah, they all did.
Oh, I wasn't watching.
Yeah, I know. But it was really
I was
fun,
chatting with the crew.
as one does.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody had all these
All right, I need
Dwayne
another
Brat.
something.
I know. And not clean. There. It's your birthday. We're allowed to make a mess. Yeah. And you came on and everyone had their thoughts on what do you need to learn. Brian Keating talked about what animals know. Dwayne Brat. Rich Hesketh came on. All these people came on and talked about what they learned. And I remember what most of them said.
Do you remember what I said?
Mm-hmm. You said, I remember the first thing you said. I said, so Jebb, what do you learn? And you said something like, the thing to remember is people are assholes.
Not the people watching this, the others.
Yeah, the others. Yeah, that was the Jebb one. I remember that being, and of course, this may shock you, but everybody laughed. Yeah, it was a lot of Rich Hesketh, that he was at the time the strength and conditioning guy for the Flames. Remember him? His thing was you only do two things at a time, and he learned that from somebody. He goes, if you want to be an athlete and a student, great, but you can't be an athlete and a student and have a job. It won't work. Or you can't have a job and try to be an athlete and then go to school.
Can't be the surgeon and the patient.
Pick two. Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
So the other thing that I said,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you remember this, none of us are nearly as important as we think we are.
Yeah. Which was kind of what followed from the people can be assholes because they think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the point was, and when I was leaving the show, and I know exactly why I laughed at people. I said, basically, we had a new company taking us over. My contract was up. Nobody had spoken to me, which reeks of, we're not going to renew you.
Right.
Then I went in and told them I was leaving, and they freaked out on me.
Yeah.
I was like, well, fuck.
Hello.
So I said, no matter what, like everybody was like, that show's going to be nothing without you. And I kept saying, it'll be fine. Dave's there.
Yeah.
It'll all be fine. And then in my head, people were, and I think Julie said, the show won't be good without you. And honestly, it just goes on.
It does. Yeah.
I mean, they killed it now.
Yeah.
But television's been killed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny that people, no one's irreplaceable.
I know. And I kind of thought I would
At
be.
any level.
And you aren't. So not. I know. And I was like, yeah, well, when I leave, it's just going to, but you know what? No. The next day, guess what happened? Lights came on. Someone started talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? There was one person that left that show that affected it so much.
Our show?
Uh-huh.
Before me, after me.
I think you were still there.
On air or behind the scenes?
Behind.
Ah. Paula?
Nope.
Behind.
On the floor.
Oh, Glenn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Glenn Stevenson,
Yeah.
he did everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the guy that became, I'm sure a lot of people have this guy at work. And it wasn't that he's nondescript.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Very descript.
very descript, very out there and very
Yeah.
positive and
Yeah.
tries to be the happiest he can. But he did so much stuff that nobody knew.
Yeah.
And somebody told me that the first day that he wasn't there, people were going, well, where is that? Why isn't that done? Well, because you fired Glenn, you dumb shit.
Yeah.
And he did all that stuff that nobody
100%.
knew.
Yeah. He knew where everything was. He knew how to open
Yep.
anything, turn anything on, make anything work. Where
Yep.
the broom was, where the mics were, where everything was. Yeah.
Yeah. I run into him every once in a while. It's
Good
still makes me smile. Just
Such a
seeing
good
him.
guy. Yeah. You know what I realized, and I don't want to say I'm old, but man, I gotta pee. So how does that work? Do I run out? Do I just pee my pants? How does this work? What do you want me to do?
You can go if you want.
I'm gonna pee my pants.
Okay.
Where would I go to find this bathroom?
He showed you on the way
I
in.
thought so, but I wasn't listening.
You are old. You forgot where the bathroom is. You're not old enough to remember. You have to remember. Down that way. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. He'll be right back. Unless he's pretty old. So he's old to have kids, hey? You know, like as young as they are, 9 and 11. I actually don't know how old he is. I don't know when his birthday is. However, I told him when I booked him on the show, he was going to be here the day after my birthday. So that's why he got the cake. And he bought me a card. Well, technically, he didn't give it to me. I'll explain the whole shebang to you when he gets back. These guys, I don't know why, these are not the world's greatest cupcakes. However, it doesn't matter what kind of cupcake it is. You can't stop eating it. Because a cupcake is a delicious thing no matter what. So, if you're younger, you'll notice Dave has all the gray hair. It might take him a while because you can't always pee right away. So he might just be standing there hoping for the best, and then he'll go turn the sink on and then see if that inspires him to urinate. Or he might have hated the first part of the interview, and he's in his car on his way home right now. Which is okay because we have his coat and his bag, so we can do whatever we want.
That's better.
There's a good connect. He put his mask on to go to the bathroom.
Well, yeah, I just
Late at night in an office building.
I didn't know who'd be here.
Oh, I was explaining to them that sometimes when you get a bit older, it might take a while because you might have to turn the sink on and get a little inspiration going. And then it might, come out more in drips and
You know what happened to me? I was in a motel room with Ben Wong this summer. And you know Ben. He used to work at
love
City
Ben.
TV. Great guy. And the longer story as to why we were in a shitty motel in Northern Alberta. But we were in a shitty motel in Northern Alberta sharing a room. And when he went to pee, I was like, that's what you're supposed to sound like. He was like, wow, that sounds like a real person peeing as opposed to this thing I got going on over here.
as opposed to the racehorse.
I was like, wow, the days when I peed like that are long gone.
Have you heard his daughter sing?
Yeah.
Holy
Crazy,
crap.
isn't it?
Speaking of talented young ladies.
They he's shown me videos of his 3 kids singing 3-part harmony while doing dishes. Yeah. So I don't quite have that. And he pees better than me. So what does that tell you?
He's got that over you. So I promised. I kept talking about you.
Yeah.
And how old you actually were.
Exactly.
And I don't know. I don't. Are you a Taurus? Why do I think that?
No, I don't even know what that. I'm an Aries. March 28th, 63.
Oh,
So I'll be 59 this year. No.
Wait till you get to be 69. So the card,
Yes.
there's a special gift. It's worth waiting for.
Yes.
We had an ongoing joke, and I have found out that not as many people find this funny as you and I found it funny.
Yes.
So one year, I was older than a lot of the people that worked with us. And I don't remember who it was, but one of the guys on the team says to me, Father's Day's coming up. I don't even know what to get my dad. What are you getting your dad? And I said, I'm not going to get him anything. And this is when you can see Dave just turn his chair a little bit so he can listen.
So good.
He goes, where are you going to see him? Like, take him to dinner? No, I'm not going to see him. I haven't seen him in, it's got to be 5 or 6 years now. And he just keeps going. And he says, well, you're not going to get him you're not even going to send him a card or anything? No, I'm not. Are you going to call him? No, I'm not calling him. And then finally he gets you, he goes, why not? I said, because he's fucking dead. And Dave and I are the only two there laughing, but we're laughing our asses off.
The best.
So then, anytime things got a little bit boring and you just needed to be amused, Dave would go, Jebb, how's your dad? And we would start, and everybody around us were just like, they were sick of hearing it. Like, they were just like, he's going to just keep going until he says, because he's fucking dead.
That's my favorite.
So Dave brought me a card, son, daughter.
Yeah, I tried to find, there's no birthdays for sons, so I found a daughter one, yeah.
Yeah, because nobody cares about the son.
Apparently not.
Okay. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you brighten the world just by being you. Dear Jebb, happy birthday with love, Dad. So you must have pissed yourself when, well, not then, but when you thought of doing that.
I did, and I thought everyone else would be horrified at this, right? Like, there'd be no one else other than Jebb that would find this really funny, but Jebb's going to find it funny. And I thought, no, I got it.
Yeah, and you know what? My dad would have found that funny. That's the bad part.
Can we send it to him?
I don't know with COVID and all.
He's doing some serious
isolation.
He
is isolating.
He's got some serious social distancing going on.
But it's kind of with, I think it was Bobcat Goldthwait, his joke that we lost my dad. Well, we didn't lose him. We know right where he is. And then it was this whole string of, I lost my girlfriend. Or he says, no, I lost my job. Well, I didn't lose it. I know where it is. But when I go there now, there's somebody, some other guy's doing it. And then later he go, I lost my wife. Well, I didn't lose her. I know where she is. But when I go there, there's some other guy doing it right now. He was highly underrated for the amount of like joke action he could get in.
Is that right?
Well,
and Disney is a director now, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And and overall he's a really smart man.
Is he?
Yeah. And he got sober really early in life, and really early, and was always very careful of that. But he told a story about he was at a party and they dropped a bunch of acid, and he decided the clothes were really a problem, so he removed all of his clothes except for his tennis shoes, and he just left the party, and he was going for a run, and he's running down the road. And he said all of a sudden there's a cop car pulls up beside him. The cop rolls his window down. Hey buddy, how are you? Pretty good. And he goes, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to the Bahamas. And the cop says, hey, we're going there too. why don't you hop in the back and we'll give you a ride? He goes, hey, wicked nice you guys to pick me up.
That's great.
And he had said at one point that was a true story.
That's an awesome story.
And that was like a high school story or something. He's been sober for a gazillion years.
But like, I'm curious though, back to sober and what we've learned. Because Dad I'll ask Dad sometimes, and we talked a bit about it. He talks about rock bottom, right? You got to hit a rock bottom for you change. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's drinking or whatever. Just like
whatever the issue is.
Whatever the issue is,
Yeah.
something's got to go down. So let's say, like for New Year's Eve, if people say, "I want to be better at blank," do you say, "Yeah, it's not going to happen until there's a shit show," or how did you decide? Okay, I don't have to be sane, but I'm going to be sober. That's a massive change.
Oh, I tried for a really long time. Then basically it got down to the either go to Betty Ford and get sober or jump off your balcony.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and I couldn't do it to my kids.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So, shitty fact, but
well,
and it always amazed me. You'd go into a rehab or whatever program you're checking into, and one of the questions they ask is, have you ever thought about hurting yourself or someone else? And I would always go, oh yeah,
yeah.
And they would say, you can't say that, or we have to refer you to the psychiatric area.
Yeah.
I'm like, there isn't a person on the planet that hasn't thought about killing themselves or killing or hurting someone else.
Yeah.
And I remember this girl, and she said, don't say you have to answer. I said, you can't tell me how to answer the questions for admittance to a treatment program.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, we have to send you to the psych area and I go, everybody has thought about hurting someone else.
Yeah.
And she said, I haven't. I said, how old are you? And she said, I'm 20. And I said, you're in the wrong fucking line of work, honey.
You said, you should meet my dad.
You just went, yeah. You do this job for 4 months, you're going to think about hurting somebody. But people, you know what? People want to ignore the truth of things.
Yeah.
And they would rather see it pushed under the carpet. And I found, I would imagine it was hugely true for your dad, that that was the big thing in the family, is make sure nobody finds out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your mom's very religious.
And yeah, and so she'd say, I didn't know Dad was drinking even after he quit. Like she had no sense if he was a drunk before or sober after. She just thought.
So they were close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of, that was in the 60s, I guess, how much.
But you know what? Addicts are the sneakiest bastards on earth.
Yeah.
You can get away with ridiculous shit forever. And your mom's really religious.
Crazy time. Crazy's not fair. Maybe that's a strong
You know what?
word. Yeah.
Next time you talk to her, ask her if she has any questions for Jesus, and I'll ask my mom.
You do that, or else
my mom knows now.
Oh.
I actually, when my mom passed away, in my fashion, I dealt with it by writing a bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the areas that I wrote was that she got to heaven and found out you don't have to be good. You don't have to live right. You don't have to believe in any particular thing. Everybody gets to go to heaven.
Mm. And
I said, I just wanted to see that, where she would walk out and go, fucking everybody? Hitler's in heaven? And I just got this picture of my mother, who had spent her entire life, her goal was to get to heaven, and doing all the right things, finding out you just didn't have to do anything. God just accepted you, which should be the theory in Jebb's book. I'm writing a Bible. That's not really a Bible. It's more of a guideline.
Couple of thoughts.
That was my complaint at AA meetings is, they got 12 steps. Even God only had 10 commandments. You guys are more picky than God, But isn't it funny that two guys that grew up with out of whack religious mommies ended up seeking the respect and love of anyone else that would buy a ticket.
Yeah, anyone. You don't even have to buy a ticket. You can be the usher. I'll still want you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I used to tell people, when you'd see comedians and I'm going to be a big star. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. I would tell them, the difference between me and you is I would do this if it didn't pay anything. If I
Right.
couldn't find a stage to do it on, I'd do this on the street with a hat on the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
Like that's the drive to do it.
Yeah. My drive has always been, well, that seems fun, but I never, the only job I knew was a job was teaching because I was around teachers growing up. We all were, but then I didn't know that.
And it's a job.
It's totally a job, but I didn't know that comedians is a job. I didn't know that acting is a job. I didn't know that tap dancing is a job. And then I did them all and realized, wait a minute, it's just a job.
Yeah. Well, that's when people ask me, what was it like being on television? And I would say, it's a job.
Yeah.
It's one of the best jobs you could ever have.
Yeah.
And for the time that I did it, I loved it,
Yeah, it was
completely.
fun. Yeah.
And I think I was I had already been through learning a lot about how to do it, how to do television at a couple of other places before we ended up working together. And it was just such a good group of people to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And the smart thing that I think they did was they did hire a lot of young, eager,
Yeah.
excited,
Yeah.
If you're a cameraman, you're hauling a camera around forever. It is hard to keep your attitude up and just not, okay, we'll point and shoot.
Yeah.
Whereas we it's the same as stand-up and, doing a play or doing anything. We have the fun part of the whole job.
Yeah.
Everybody behind the scenes does all the work. And then we get to go out, be whatever we're going to be for that hour, and then have everybody like us.
Yeah.
Or hate us.
Either one. Gordy Banks, remember Gordy was the audio guy?
Yep.
So Gordy
Excuse me.
did this, he was the audio. All the bands would come on the show, he'd mix for the bands, he'd do whatever. And, but he'd always, they'd call us talent. They say, well, the people are on camera, they call them talent. But Gordy would say, go get the poodles. Where are the poodles? So that was his term for
That's
me
right.
and you and whoever else was on TV.
Yes.
We're the poodles. Go get the poodles. It was good. Yeah. That's
What a great guy.
Yeah, it's fairly accurate too.
Oh, yeah, it is. I remember I was somewhere with Nancy, and we're doing one of the festivals or something, and we're backstage of the theater that they're filming the show in, and I have my, outfit on, getting ready to go on stage, and she is picking lint off of my clothes, and I'm talking to somebody, and I'm not even realizing that she's primping me.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Are you okay with that?" And I go, "You kind of get used to it, I guess." I didn't know I must have had lint or hair or something on me. And that's Nancy's greatness is taking care of people.
Yeah. Amazing.
Me and you for a while, her children forever and still, and now her parents, and she still books me into stuff.
So good. She's amazing. It's just such a big heart.
Yeah, far nicer than, I knew at one point when Nancy says to me, "All right, you're really being an asshole." I knew I was really being an asshole when she was going to call me on it. You're being difficult, you're being unreasonable, but you're being an asshole.
Fine.
I'll go back and apologize.
I have to. When were you sober? When did it, lately? When's the last?
Easter.
This year?
Easter, it'll be 7 years at
That's
Easter.
great.
And it's not even, I call it the second coming of Jebb, but which never really happened as a romance. It was
The movie never came
one
out.
and done.
Yeah. Oh my God! Can I lie down? Oh, I am.
don't know.
Good.
I need a nap. Is that not the best sleep ever, though?
Oh.
Right after? It's,
Even during sometimes. Wait. No.
For her, it doesn't. I'll try not to wake.
Shh. Come 7 years. That's great.
Well, it's really, you know, I tend to blurt things out and then not remember them. And at one point I said, I'm going to do this for, I mean, you know me, I'm very pragmatic.
Mm.
I said, I'm going to do this for 5 years. And if shit doesn't get better, I'm going to go right back at her.
Mm-hmm.
And coming up to my 5-year anniversary, all of a sudden I'm getting phone calls from people. People are stopping by Crossroads Market to, you know, just, hey, how you doing? And then finally it dawned on me, oh, shit, I told everybody if I wasn't happy at 5 years, I was going to start again. And then I just started having to tell people, no, it's going to be okay.
How did it? That's a great point. So then, did you feel? Was life better after 5 years?
The sobriety and everything, but I had cluster fucked my life so badly and hurt so many people that you know, you don't feel good about it.
Right.
How could you feel good about that?
But you felt good enough to say it's not worth going back to. Like, was there a moment in the 5 years where you're like, fuck this, I'm going back?
Yeah, maybe in a fleeting thought, but honest to God, I think if I went back, I'd be dead in 2 months.
Yeah.
2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Because I, as you know, do not do anything halfway.
Yeah, that's the thing.
All the way.
Yeah.
I was telling some. Do you remember when we did the rock wall? We were doing the rock wall live on the air. It's up on 16th, and they have this. I'm not this thinnest guy. I got some poundage, and I'm climbing the rock wall, and they put this smaller guy is belaying me. And I knew I was going to, you know, I always knew what I was going to do at the end. And I just had to make the circumstance happen the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And I got everything in the right position. And he turned his head for a second and I jumped off the wall. And as we passed each other, I'm laughing and laughing. And he is freaking out because he thinks he's got to save me. And it's like, man, you didn't have a chance.
Good luck on that.
Yeah. Oh, man, you ever seen the teeter-totter? The fat kid don't go up. Just goes down. And I guess now they have like some kind of auto belaying system or something, so you can't do that anymore, which is safety.
Come on.
Really. You know, once they put helmets in the Olympics. You know what I mean? Like, the ski racers used to wear knit caps, you know, going 100 miles an hour down a hill on 2 boards.
What was your joke? You had a joke about this Canadian snowboarder who got caught with weed. Do you remember that joke?
Yeah. Ross Rabagliati.
Yes.
Great name, huh?
It was excellent. And your joke, okay.
That's got to be a character somewhere in a Rabagliati.
I remember your joke was, and I'll do you, and it was I'm not as funny as you. There's a few things I've stolen from you.
And when he says do you, he means
have sex with you.
Yes. That's how I understood it. I don't want to, but I wanted him on the show really bad.
But the joke was something like, how can it be a performance enhancing drug? Which was and then you were like, you're doing Ross going, now?
Go now?
Do I go now? And it was so good. That was a great
And really, the overall point, the way that joke started, and I promised I would never explain how I write jokes to anyone. It started with one line where I talked about he was in the Olympics and they caught him smoking dope. And he won the gold medal. And how would you feel if you were the silver medalist? So what was he on? Roids? Was he on the roids? Maybe some speed, some coke, some pot? And just to realize that stoner dude just kicked your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
And admittedly, that is a stoner dude sport.
It totally
And
is.
now it's legal.
Okay, can I tell my other Jebb stand-up story? I have 1,000 Jebb stories. So, Jebb, I went to
only
see,
remember 5.
Right, I went to see you at the hotel, wherever the comedy
Blackfoot.
club, Blackfoot, and this was early on when we were all just getting to know each other. And I took pride in the fact that anytime you did a show, I was there. So I saw a bunch of shows. And I remember we were there, and there's a few of us from the show, and somebody heckled you. And I remember thinking, oh God, if someone heckled me, I'd just start to cry. I think that's what I would do. And I remember, so the guy says something off in the distance, and you're on stage. Like, it was like totally interrupted you. And then you looked over and you said, sorry, what was that? And the guy says, fuck off, Jebb. And I remember going, oh God, what's he going to do? This is going to go really badly. I didn't know. And then I remember there was this huge pause, and you slowly turn to me and you go, I've been doing this 25 years, and that's all you got? And the guy just sat there looking at you, and then he just went on. Like, he wasn't even worth you bothering. It was just like this bug. You just looked at him, talked to him like he was a bug, and the whole place just shit themselves. It was so good. And I remember thinking I would have been in tears, and Jebb was like, I've been doing this 25 years. Fuck off. That's all you got?
Yeah, you got to bring something to the... Like, how do you work with that? Give me something you can work. One of my favorites was there was someone who once again needs to remain nameless, but I'm great at riffing the crowd, working the crowd, and he's talking to the front row, and I swear to God, there's like a mechanic, there's I can't remember what the lady did.
And a rabbi.
No, a gynecologist. And he looks at all three of them and he goes, I got nothing. I lose it in the back. It's like, that's 2 hours of material.
That's
man.
right there.
You got a mechanic and a gynecologist. Hey, take a look at this. Tell me how it works.
Yeah, I think that's just begging for a joke.
Yeah, it's, although I think I'm slowing down because I've got trapped a couple of times in the last few years that you would enjoy watching this. Some ladies in the front, I keep going, I know you, but I don't remember. She said, oh, you know me. And she's sitting there and she's got this guy that looks too young to be her date, but good for her. And then I said, is this your date? And she goes, no, it's our son. And I went blank. And at that instant, the whole audience thought, he thinks it is. And I was just hooped. I didn't know what to say. I was like, we should talk after.
Wait.
And
how much
she
do
just
I owe
goes,
you?
You know what? I come to your shows all the time. I was just fucking with you. And I was like, oh my God, lady.
That's so good.
But I was like, there's no way.
But see, this is where my dad's big thing is. He talks about experience, and you can't.
It doesn't matter what you do.
If you have experience, then you're not rattled, right? Whereas when you're 25, if you haven't been around enough, you're going to get thrown by stuff. But when you've been around, like the guy telling you to fuck off, like that's
really, come on, give me something. I mean, I've had twice people have died.
What?
In the audience during the show.
Died?
One they rolled out. I said, all right, everybody calm down. Call 911 right now. Everybody back off, sit down and drink your drinks. And they were working on him, and then they rolled him out. And I said, okay, turn the lights back off. Let's go.
Really?
And I finished the show, and the girl that was managing the club, she goes, I can't believe you finished the show.
And did the audience come back to you? Like, were they back in?
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but I think what I might have actually said when they were rolling him out, I get a cut of the door, no refunds. And then I had a girl that went down during the show, just boom, and they got her out of the room, and they told me later that she had actually had a heart attack and died, and she was quite young. So it was very shocking, but it was just kind of like, you just figure out some way to get them to come around. And I said, I have seizures. I know what she's going through. They'll take care of her. They'll have her in an ambulance and out of here in 2 minutes. So everybody sit down. Nobody go out and look, because it's the worst thing ever if you have a seizure is you wake up and a bunch of people are looking at you.
Yeah. Whoa. I was at an event once where actually someone said, is there a doctor in the house? And that was the first time I'd ever heard someone
Yeah.
say that. Now, that's a freaky moment. And this guy had a beautiful tuxedo, round table, fancy thing, and he's blue and then hurls like
Oh yeah,
hurls
then
whatever
probably
was
shat himself. So that's what you do right before you die, right?
Oh my God. He ended up living, but it was not, I don't think he came out a lot in that tuxedo very much after that. He was like, I think that one's ruined, buddy. You're not wearing that
You
again.
might, honey, did you take my tux to the? No, I burned it. You knob. Have some more Cheetos. I did a show in Edmonton one time, and it was really cool at the height of Oiler hockey, and some of the team would come to the shows sometimes up there, and that was kind of cool. But we did a show, and somebody had bought out the room, and it was for some kind of physical rehab thing. And there's a guy sitting in the front row. Nobody's talking to them because they've all been in, some kind of physical rehab, and there's something wrong with them. And to me, it's like, well, let's talk about it and make it nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just turn it into nothing right away. So there's a guy, and I look at him when I first walked up, and I thought, it's my end. That's the end of the show for me right there.
Oh, nice.
And he's sitting there, and he's crippled, like he's frozen, but his hand's like this. And so at the end of the show, I said, car accident? And he goes, yeah. I said, can I test my theory? And he goes, huh? And I picked up a beer can and slid it into his frozen hand, and it fit perfect. And he just goes, asshole. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, and I'll be out of here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Awesome.
So what's next?
Well, I rebuilt a studio in my basement, so I can now do host things from the basement if I need to, which I've been doing. I've done a few Zoom online shows.
They're a letdown, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know what? And you know what? They're more work.
Yeah.
But if you have a good one,
Yeah.
there's more reward.
Yeah.
Like you just think to yourself, okay, I can't believe I pulled that off.
Yeah. And there was a few, I hosted like a couple of fundraisers, and they finished.
Oh, wow, nice.
And then it ended, and I stood up and I went, well, I'm home. I'll go upstairs, I guess. Like, it's just a strange thing to be on camera in your own basement.
Boxers and a walkout. That's the thank you, good night right there.
Exactly. So there's that. I'm going to be doing way more once we get live shows going again. There's going to be a lot more of that. And then, the corporate game will still be, there's still people who want a moderator to come by and help them work. And who knows what Ellen will be doing. We'll see if that goes too.
Did you meet her wife?
Yeah, I did. It was the strangest.
She seems pretty.
was the strange in Toronto. So we did Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal, and then Toronto. And in the Toronto show, I was in the dressing room, in the Leafs dressing room, sitting in there by myself, and those things are in your little space. And there's a knock on the door, and they say, Ellen wants to see you. And she and I did not spend very much time, was very little time
off stage,
just work when we were working. So anyway, so I go down, and they're taking me down. She said, Ellen wants to see you. So we come over, and then I'm by her dressing room. She comes out. Hey, Dave, gives me a hug, and we're talking. And she goes, okay, when we do the Montreal show was great. I was thinking, and she said, I think we should do the Johnny Carson story early. And what if you think about it? And so then we're just talking about the show. And then this other person walks up, and we're talking, and I look over and I go, oh, hi, Portia. Never having met. She goes, hey, Dave. And then there's the three of us talking about how the show's going to go. And it's just one of those, there's a piece of my brain that was going to go, this is going to seem really cool, but right now let's get to work. So we do that, and then we're on stage, and we do the show. And in the show, I did these little rapid fire questions like you do, right? So it was like, I don't know, what's your favorite swear word? Because she said fuck, and the whole audience would lose their mind because it was just funny to hear Ellen say fuck. But then it would be, who's the last celebrity you texted? And it would always be funny because she'd have somebody shiny. So this time I said, so who's the last celebrity you texted? And she goes, Michelle Obama. And then she goes, and Michelle, we were saying that you are going to be interviewing her husband in Calgary on Tuesday. which was true because I was doing the Obama thing. So then there's a part of me that's fun. We get on with the conversation, but there's a little piece of my brain that's going somewhere on Ellen DeGeneres' phone. There's a conversation with Michelle Obama talking about me interviewing Barack Obama in Calgary. And I was like, what just happened to my world? So there are little moments like that that are
Not
just
bad
bizarre.
for a teacher.
Exactly, right?
It's
Not
kind of a
bad.
weird.
Bizarre. How do we end up doing what we do, And it doesn't make me, my dad would remind me many times, as would my mom, they're just people and they just make you any more important than the person who cleans up the place when you're done. However, it's a fun moment while it's there.
One of the days that I filled in for you, and I knew in my heart that you wouldn't be happy that you weren't there for this, but Wayne's dad, Gretzky's dad, was on, and he kind of was like your dad in that salt of the earth kind of, just a guy. And one of the things that he said was that when Wayne made it and he was doing all these things, Wayne hired like his dad to do something, and he has, I think, at least one brother. I remember him talking about.
It's got a few, yeah.
And I said, "Oh, so do you still work for Wayne?" And he said, "No. I told Wayne he'd have to find somebody else because I thought, what's the message I'm sending to the other boys? Let's all just live off Wayne for the rest of our lives." I thought, wow,
So
that
good.
is like farmer guy wisdom.
Isn't that great?
Just the most, nope, that's a dumb thing to do because now we're just living off Wayne's natural talent.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And I've heard, he went back to phone company work. Like he'd go in offices and be fixing their phone. They're like, aren't you Wayne Gretzky's dad?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But what a way to put it into
So good.
context.
Yeah.
That, and the way I've always looked at it, I've been blind stinking lucky with everything. You talked about, how your career, a very small amount of my career did I plan.
Yeah.
I fell into almost everything.
Yep.
And kept doing what I loved doing, and added other stuff on and tried it around that.
Yeah.
And it made it really, really easy.
Yeah.
So right now, how old are you now?
58.
58. You're that much younger than me?
How old are you?
64.
60. Well, that's not that much.
Yeah, well, in a year, I'll be getting my government money, and you'll be sitting around still doing Zoom shows in your basement.
Exactly. Thinking, well, I want some government money.
I'm taking the big government payout. And I don't, I don't have an answer for this myself, so it's kind of a ballsy thing to ask of someone else. But what's the one thing that you always wanted to do that you've not gotten to yet? And I'm going to put "yet" in there.
Well, I mean, the dream I used to have when I was a kid is I wanted to be a rock star, and not even so much to be a rock star. I really wanted to be on a tour bus. I don't know why, but I always thought, man, you see them in the tour buses with the little, I've always wanted that. Not.
I did a tour bus early on as an opening act.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Certainly, maybe if you're in the band, you're on the other bus. And then maybe if you're me, you get invited to the other bus a couple of times, and then they decide you belong with the roadies. Like, we're a band, but you're nuts.
You're a crazy train.
You were out of your mind.
I don't know though. That's a good question, and I would say I'm similar to you. I've always sort of thought, well, this will be fun. I'll try that for a bit, or this seems interesting. So I've never been the guy that has the 10 years. In 10 years, I want to be doing blank with blank. I'd like to be able to do some more plays, like to write my own one-man shows, that kind of stuff I like. I've done them. So, yep. But yeah, I it's not like there's the someday I want to be. I don't think that way. I don't think anyway.
Yeah,
You?
see, I wanted to be the next Johnny Carson for a while, and then I discovered that wasn't going to happen. And I mean, I did a movie show, interviewing the stars, and I thought, oh, I'd much rather be in that chair, not this chair.
Yeah.
I don't want to be interviewing the star. I want to be the fucking star.
Yeah, I buy that.
And I can't act, so I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know what my little pinhead was going through there. But.
Well, see, this is where I think, like my line of work, they're not looking for the new 60-year-old TV moderator. That's not
No.
not in the cards, right? So my gig, I don't know what my gig's going to be, because the things that maybe, yeah, if I would have said I want to be the new talk show host of Canada, well, the truth is, if they're going to get another talk show in Canada, which they probably won't, even if they did, they're not looking for a male 60-year-old.
No.
So that's off the table. It's just
We
cupcakes.
should do something together again sometime. I
Sure.
mean, besides this, I don't know what. Dinner date. Start out low.
We'll go to oh man, the joke isn't going to work. What's the dinner theater place by the comedy club?
Oh yeah, what is the name of that place? They're doing. You know what? They've got a big like Motown review thing on right now, and apparently they're dark because like 16 out of 20
of COVID
on the show, in the show, not
Really?
just there, but actual performers.
Stage West.
Phew.
Yeah. I was married to a woman who did a bunch of Stage West shows in the day. And so I spent a lot of time sitting there eating their rum balls and getting awfully sick on them, but the rum balls.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that was wife number one.
Number one, yeah.
And
The
then
great Tracy.
she left with your balls.
She left. No, you know what? That's like, she's like Judy. We get along great, and she's a good egg. And I got to hang out with Barbara Streisand's sister. So that's my claim to fame. And the blonde in Growing Pains. You know how Stage West always has these shiny names.
Yowthers. Tina Yowthers?
Yeah.
Yowthers?
Yeah.
Didn't she marry a hockey player?
Could have. I don't know. Didn't marry me.
I think she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the part.
We should do something live where we just talk to each other and make people pay to watch us talk to each other.
And if we get, okay, let me just do the math. If we get, say, 100 people and each of them paid $10 million, I think we could do one good show. You think?
I don't think we'd get more than 5 people, but that's all you need.
That's all it's it.
It's $50 million bucks.
I just see. You could even take
30-20.
You knew this, I'm sure you do, but did you know, speaking of trivia that doesn't mean anything to anybody, the funny guy in the 2-person acts got paid less. I didn't know that. The straight man got more. So like
Yeah.
Abbott and Costello made more money.
Yeah, but theoretically, he was the brains.
Right. Theoretically.
And you know what? And I've always said this about you. You were the best setup guy that I ever worked with. That could actually, and I know you did that. I know you sat around thinking of what can I say to him on the air that he will have no answer to. And I don't remember if I told this story about dropping the C word on the air.
Best
Oh
moment.
my God.
Best moment ever.
Well, we had
this
to,
will be
I
our
kept-
this will be our closer. This will be our closer.
Okay,
So
well, I'll
this is a
tell
good
the other one first. When they told me that if I didn't shut up about SARS,
one.
that they were going to fire me because I was making fun of SARS. And then you find out and you ask me on the air about SARS. I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. And I'm like, I'm like a spoiled little kid because I have shit to say, but they won't let me say it because I called it a bullshit disease.
Yeah.
And I said, more people are going to get hit by lightning. And it was true of that.
Yeah.
Of COVID, I'm very serious about
Yeah.
everybody being careful for everybody. But with the SARS thing, so anyway, we finish, and I'm just like, God damn it. And then I threw and thought I was off the air, and I just went, fuck it, asshole. And I could hear it in my ear, which meant it was on air.
Nice.
And but the dropping the C word.
So let me take everyone back. This is our big wrap up story. It was a good one. So, and Donald Trump was involved in this story because the reason it was in the news was he had just bought.
Oh yeah.
He had just bought Miss America, the pageant.
The pageant,
Not the person, the pageant.
he did bid on the actual
He
Miss
did.
America.
I'm sure he did. So
Check
it was
bounce.
So here we were, and then like we talk about the news. So we're talking about Miss America. And at the time, so there was a bit of, should Donald Trump buy it? Who's Donald Trump? And like, what's he up for? And then the question was, what should the contest be? Because there was swimsuit, is so sexist.
Well, they were throwing it out.
Yeah, they were getting rid of it. So of course, I mean, this is just like the mechanic and the gynecologist. I'm just lobbing stuff at Jebb because we'll just see where they get knocked to. So
can I put?
Oh, you go.
Here's
yeah.
my disclose. It was at the same time we were writing on American in Canada, and I'd been up all night finishing a script, and I was exhausted.
And nobody saw this happen until I pointed it out after the show. So it was hilarious.
So I wouldn't have even gotten in trouble except for
me. Although
Thank
I
you.
didn't get you in trouble so much as say, you guys got to come see this, because so we're on a split screen. Me and Jebb are on, and I say, I want to get the words right. So we're talking about Miss America, and
it was replacing. What would you replace?
Yeah. And your line was, I would pay $25 to see Miss America contestant, but instead of saying contestant, you changed your mind. You said, I'd pay $25 to see Miss America's cunt. And then you went on to something else. And then you just talked. And and on the split screen, you see my eyes go, nah, nah, nah. I'm like, what did he just say? But you were trying to say contestant. What you were trying to say. And then you just
I was
changed,
so tired I couldn't talk.
went to a different word. So then I'm saying, I'm pretty sure in my head, Jebb Fink just said he'd pay $25.
I think it was 100.
Okay.
To be honest.
See,
Don't cheat me out.
Miss America's C word. So,
I was going to say I would pay to see the mud wrestle. That was where my head went.
Oh, it was muddy. It was muddy, all right.
Oh, yeah.
So then I'm like, you guys, I'm sure. So I brought everyone over. I said, watch this. And I play the tape. Clear as day. It was so good. Clear as day.
So do you know the meeting that I had?
So then you had a meeting after.
Oh, I had a meeting with Mark. And he says,
tell me about Miss America.
He says, anything special happened this morning? I go, I don't know. And he played it.
So good.
And
so good.
He said, what do you have to say for yourself? I said, to be honest, I might go as high as 300. I thought I'm fired anyway. Go for the joke.
So good.
What a treat having you here, buddy.
Jebb, it's been awesome. I'm so glad you texted about it, and then we get to hang out. It's great. And happy birthday. I'm glad.
Thank you very much.
More.
64. One more year and I'm on the dole.
Nice. I can't wait. Then I'm going to start complaining every time I fill out my taxes. I'm going to go, this is going to Fink. I know it is.
Straight to him.
Fuck. Die.
He'll be in the Bahamas drinking cheap rum, giving up on his sobriety.
Thanks so much, Jebb. It's great to be here.
Oh, thanks for being here. And look for Dave Kelly Live when it comes out. There'll be announcements and stuff. It'll be back.
It will.
Things will get better.
It will. They're going to be good for all of us. And thanks, Liz, for the camera store. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and be kind to each other. For the love of God.
Can we do that? I'm with you.
And I mean the kind of kind you and I are to each other, where you just rake the other one over the coals. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe, like us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Such a pleasure, Dave. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See your dad soon.
Okay.